Really excited to meet, I just met Rohan today, and excited to hear his story. I've watched a lot of video on him. He's quite popular online, and quite prolific in stores. I was enjoying my peach and mango Vita Coco at lunch today, which I have every day. How many of you dream of building a brand someday? Hands up. How many of you sort of think of creating a consumer product that will be on shelves everywhere, that you can go into stores and actually see it, something like that? Very cool. Well, for most people, doing it once would be a career achievement. Our guest tonight has done it many times and has more hits on the way. Rohan started his career at M&M Mars, where at 20 years old, he was the youngest manufacturing manager to run Snickers in Europe. His first big career move was to Coca-Cola, where he ended up leading Sprite to be the #1 brand for the youth and African American markets. He went on to manage then a declining brand, Powerade, to 3 straight years of growth with the creation of great designs, partnerships, and advertising campaigns. Rohan left Coke to become a partner in a fledgling beverage company called, am I going to pronounce it right, Glaceau? Is that close? Glaceau? It's funny how you buy things all the time, you don't even know how to pronounce them. He left Coke to become a partner in Glaceau, where he built vitamin water and smart water into household names through innovative marketing programs and partnerships with high-profile celebrities like 50 Cent, Fitty, Jennifer Aniston, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Tom Brady, Venus Williams, and Alicia Keys. Some big names there. And in one of those full circle Oprah moments, he engineered the sale of Glaceau to Coca-Cola, his former employer, for a mere $4.1 billion. That's with a B. It's a lot of money. And following the sale, he was appointed as the chief marketing officer across all of Coke's still brands. After leaving Coke, he went on to form Idea Merchants Capital, his platform for investing and building iconic brands. His latest ventures include Pop Chips, the fastest growing snack in the country, Vita Coco, the #1 coconut water, told you peach and mango's big, Flywheel, a new sensation in spinning and lifestyle fitness, Sir Kensington's Ketchup, and recently Chef's Cut Real Jerky, again following the model that he pioneered, pairing great brands with very high-profile celebrities. He has been honored as part of Crane's 40 Under 40 list, Ad Age Marketing 50 Award. He was named to the Sports Business Journal's 40 Under 40 list. He is quite a force in marketing and brand building. Let's learn how to build brands with Rohan Oza. Rohan, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's great. You want to turn him down just a touch?
It's going to be tough to do that.
So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about your background, and then we're going to let you loose to give a branding lesson.
Sure.
So this is, this is sort of like inside the actor's studio for entrepreneurs, and we like to sort of cover a little bit of your life behind the scenes, and we would love to have you give your framework, your philosophies along the way. I've watched you; you're not bashful, so that's going to come out. No, but we're trying to give them tools and frameworks, not just to live an entrepreneurial life, to make a great life. So that's that. So can we start out at the beginning? Where were you born and where'd you grow up?
I was born in, so I'll come to you in a second, by the way. I feel very mercenary following Adam. Adam's a friend of mine, by the way, and he's such a benevolent cause, and I'm kind of shilling products. But we'll come to this in the end, but if you choose Gambia as your school or as your country, then I'm in on your game. At least for $5,000. You negotiate a lot, but we'll start at 5 if you do Zambia as your course.
Beautiful country. Because?
Well, so I'm a third-generation African, originally Indian, but my great-grandfather moved to Africa 110 years ago. My grandmother was born there, my dad was born there, and I was born there. So that's what I would see as home, where I grew up.
What city in Zambia?
Lusaka. Livingston and Lusaka, both.
Beautiful, beautiful area. We've all jumped off, the bungee at
Victoria Falls.
And depending on which side.
Catch the croc at the bottom? Or not? No.
No, that wasn't my thing. So at what age were you there?
I was there probably, I went to boarding school in England. So on and off till I graduated. I would go back several times a year, 3 times a year, until I graduated, and then I would just go back once a year. So I go back still once a year now.
And how big of a family, brothers and sisters?
One sister in Chicago.
You younger or older?
I'm older.
Okay. And what did your parents do for work?
Entrepreneurial family. So my grandfather jumped on a ship leaving India, like, I don't know, 70 years ago, something, rolled down to the east coast of Africa, and used to be a laborer, and ended up building a hardware business. My dad took that over, made it a sort of farming, agricultural business, and they've been entrepreneurs their whole time. Just not something that I was passionate about, but it's an entrepreneurial household.
Any of your like early childhood aspirations or things that you thought of doing when you were a kid?
You know, I've always liked brands. I've always liked products, things you can feel. I never quite understood banking. I always have arguments with my banking hedge fund guys. I'm not sure what the hell they do, actually. And they just sort of create instruments and products, but really there's nothing there. So I like stuff that's physical. And just growing up, one of the brands that I was fascinated with was Coke. I thought it was a ubiquitous product, but had a lot of cachet. Everyone had an emotional connection with the brand. And it's probably the most iconic brand worldwide. So it's always, the company has been great to me, and it's always been a central part of my life, pretty much, for my working life at least.
It is so bizarre that something you admired as a kid in Zambia turns out to be
Yeah.
place to work, watch your company. I mean, that's...
Fired me, yeah.
I didn't want to give him that surprise quite yet, but we'll get there. So at what age do you leave? You said you went to boarding school. What age?
I was 8, I think, yeah. I cried in my cereal and stuff, like it was, but the schools weren't as good. And so at some point when my parents moved from this, to the bigger town, when we were in the smaller town, there were no great schools. So they felt they had to send me at an early age to get a great education.
And where'd they send you?
Some snobbish boarding school in London.
At 8 years old?
8.
8 years old?
I had to wear like a tie and a blazer and everything.
That is, I mean, that
like,
is...
It was like Hogwarts, basically. It's kind of what Hogwarts is based on.
So how does that sort of mark your life, do you think, as sort of leaving home at 8 years old as you learn
It makes you very independent, yeah, completely. You've got to, look, there's a community for sure. In boarding school, you have to have your independence, right? And it's sort of, you fend for yourself, but you also get a little bit of understanding of order. There's no way you can go home and whine to your parents. It's actually easier for my parents because during my bratty period, I'm not there the whole time, so the school keeps you in line, and then you try and do it over the summers, but they get a limited amount of brattiness, right? So for them, it was pretty good.
So home to Zambia during the summers, back to school?
3 times a year, like, yeah.
Okay. And went to upper school or secondary school there as well?
Yeah.
All right. Where'd you go to college?
A place called Nottingham.
Nottingham.
The only thing you guys would know is there was like a forest there, and there was a couple of movies made, but that's about it, yeah.
And
Kevin Costner.
And what did you study?
I was actually telling some guys who directed me here, because I have a bad sense of direction. I had no idea how to give them structure ready to hear. But I did engineering. And I was a terrible engineer. But like Indian families, other than Indians here, like parents like to do like engineering, medicine, some shit that's really going to pay out for the rest of your life. But marketing is not on that category of things that will pay out. So I did that, and I was terrible. And I called my dad a couple of times. I hate this. I may have to flunk out, and I'm going to come back home. I barely passed, and then I realized that I should do something different. And
so, coming out of school, where do you say you want to go work, and what do you want to do?
Well, I like consumer goods. That was Coke, and so I applied to Coke. I applied to Unilever, Mars M&Ms, and Mars M&Ms accepted me. I'm like, soda, candy, it all sounds good when you're 20, right? Yeah. So I was like, as my girlfriend likes to remind me, I was like inside the chocolate machine. Like I had to clean it out and eat it and all sorts of stuff. So it's like 100 pounds heavier. But I've been spinning since. But so I went to work for Mars M&Ms. But I did it in manufacturing because engineering was my background. So I was kind of stuck with my undergrad. Then so I had to go from manufacturing into marketing. So that was my transition.
But it's sort of a great background for a marketer to actually have built something and see how things are made.
Now I like it. Now when I sit, one of my team members who works with me and we go through stuff, I have a much better understanding of how my products are made and cost of goods and gross margins. It came from the manufacturing side. So I didn't like it then, but I find it useful now.
And how long did you stay sort of on the manufacturing side of Mars?
I was there for 3-4 years. I was in this accelerated development program. So they bring you in, you're supposed to be like really smart, like pick the best in the country, fast track you. And then if you're good, you stay. If you're bad, they fire you.
And you were working on which brand?
Snickers, and then I tried to get on Twix, but there was no, it was, I like the biscuits are great. But it was mainly Snickers, and what do you guys call it? We call it Bounty. What do you call it here? Almond Joy, that's it, yeah.
Different names in Europe for Almond Joy, huh?
Yeah.
And you were there how long?
About 3 to 4 years, yeah.
And then what?
Then they fired me.
Come on. Rising star, what happened?
Because I was very young, first of all. 20, you don't on your head from your ass. And I was running like the second largest production line in Europe. I was managing like 30 people. And then I got into the marketing operations department. And I don't know, maybe I wasn't ready, but the guy, he was a really nice guy. He wasn't a jackass or something, but he said, look, Roy, I don't think you're marketing material, and you don't have the leadership skills for what we're looking for. So the program I was in was like an up or out program. And since I wasn't going up, I went out. So I went back to Zambia, bitched to my dad again, this is what happened, I was an engineer. Now this is bad. So he gave me some make work for like 6 months, just till I calmed down, and then I applied to business school.
That's the soft landing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Some more schooling.
Yeah.
And went to a great business school.
I went to Michigan.
And good experience there?
Yeah, great.
Tell us about that.
Other than the weather, I mean, in hindsight, maybe better to come here. But Michigan was fantastic. What it did was it sort of allowed me to transition to the world I wanted to go to. And business school is not necessary, but if you do it, there's got to be a game plan to why you do it, right? So for me, it was a change of gear. Like I was in manufacturing, I wanted to get into marketing and branding. So I focused on strategy and marketing at Michigan, and it let me bridge to Coke, which is where I wanted to go.
Yeah, and so shifting your career, you moved to the States,
Yeah.
which is also not an insignificant thing either. And your first job after your MBA is?
Ended up being an associate brand manager on Sprite.
On Sprite. So how long ago is that?
This was.
I don't mean to date you, but.
Yeah, I'm older than I look. This was 15 years ago, probably.
And
16 years ago.
And some of the campaigns you ran for Sprite, I mean, remind us of that. These guys are 18 to 22
No
years old.
chance.
But
No
just,
one's gonna remember the
which
campaigns.
was
Yeah. The Sprite, back in the day when I signed a young high school basketball player, just came out of high school. No, before that.
Yeah,
This guy said LeBron James, but I mean,
it was cool.
that's right. Kobe Bryant, a guy who came out of Wake Forest, who was a first-round draft pick. Timmy Duncan, and when she was hot, Missy Elliott, and we did a cool spot with them, and then we did a campaign. I don't know if you know it, but there was a thing called Voltron. It's like the evil transformer, and the 5 lions come together to defeat Voltron. So the whole premise of the campaign was hip hop survives, and it was a bigger metaphor, frankly, for within the African American community. If you unite as a group, you survive stronger than if you try and fight independently. So we got hip hop artists from across the country, Goody Mob, and got people from the East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, and brought them together and in one creative campaign. And it was, for me, it was a kind of an education lesson at the same time as something that I built, because it wasn't my idea. It was a guy called Reginald Jolly, who was like a brilliant creative head, but it resonated because people understood it. A lot of the kids who saw that campaign, who are now in their mid-20s, saw that when they came back from school and the parents weren't home, and that's what they'd watch on TV. And so when you put that back into the community and in a way that was creative, the brand blew up.
Yeah, it's so funny because, within their lifetime, Sprite has been such a big name. It's sort of on the shelf, everyone expects, but Sprite wasn't always that exciting.
No, not so exciting.
So give us an idea of the growth during
So
your
once
time
we
frame.
became a part, it was the NBA and hip hop were the two core cornerstones of what Sprite sort of built itself from. And because it was a lot of the cool kids who were like, that was what it was, even more so than today. I mean, today you can argue dance music, and you go to Vegas now, and electronic DJs are bigger than anything else out there. But go back 15, 16 years ago, it was a lot more hip hop. So Sprite basically went from this slow, sort of slightly cheesy brand to a much more edgy, cool, irreverent brand, and exploded probably from flat to 10%, 12% growth, which on a brand of Sprite scale was big.
Enormous, yeah. And How long did you work with the Sprite brand?
About 3 years.
And what was your reward for doing such a good job with Sprite?
Well, this is the other thing. So I was going to do, this is the first .com era, right? So not the social media, but the original bust. So I was about to leave Coke because everyone was leaving to go to cool stuff. And I was like, I'm going to miss out on this. So I almost went to some travel.com, but not a good travel, not like Expedia, where it was like a travel and then ended up going bust. They didn't give me the job I wanted. And then Coke ended up actually giving me Powerade. So I got a cool brand that was declining, but I don't mind. As long as it's going down quickly or up quickly, I don't mind. I just don't like the steady brands.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So you said so Powerade is declining.
Yeah.
What did you do to turn it around?
Stop being a Me Too. Like, the problem with Powerade was they looked at what Gatorade had and they'd pick up the leftovers. Like, oh, Gatorade has the NFL and the NBA. We'll take the NHL. Well, who gives a shit about the NHL? Like if you're 10 miles south of the Canadian border, it's all good. But after that, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm sure there's some Ducks fans here, but generally, that's. So they were they weren't picking stuff that was relevant. So I said, look, if we can't get the leagues, they'll go after the athletes. So that's when the LeBron James comes in, or the Andy Roddick, and before the Dogs, Michael Vick, and he was a good dude before, but I mean his homies screwed him up. But I mean it was definitely he was but he was the hottest athlete coming out of the sport at the time. So we went after premier athletes, and then we did a lot with the action sports community. So Gatorade hadn't gone there; they were sticking very much to the core. So we went into the action sports community, new packaging, and we got people to believe. One of my themes when I finally stop jabbering and speak is belief in yourself and belief in your product. And I had to instill belief back into the bottlers and then the retailers and then consumers. Because if the bottlers don't put it on to retailers don't put it on the shelf, then no one else is buying it. So there's 3 stages of belief that I had to put into the brand.
And so you turned it around, and so what type of growth did Powerade see after that?
We went from like flat to declining growth to 20-30% growth. And so we were pretty much going to be gone. Once you're into single share territory, we were like a 9 share, you're heading south, it's game over. And we then came back and brought it to about 20% share. And I think Powerade is now 25 or 28, close to 30% share. So it's a genuine pain in the ass for Gatorade now.
Yeah, it's not just the Me Too thing.
Yeah, it's no longer Me Too.
It seems odd that there's a lot of that sort of Me Too. Let's just be number 2 in different industries, particularly entertainment. It's just like we have a Britney Spears, we got to go find a Britney Spears. But you wouldn't think like a Coke would do that. You know what I mean? It doesn't seem like a good strategy for such a market leader to just.
They're very good at being leaders. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're very good at being a leader, you're not sure how to be a challenger.
That's pretty good.
Made that up. Write it down.
They already did.
Okay.
That is really good. That's true. So you have this great growth in Powerade. You turn the brand around. You're starting to get a lot of press and notoriety. You're on the cover of Brand Week. Hot young executive on the way up. What is sort of the internal happenings at Coke and relationship with your boss? How's that going?
I got to thank my boss, because if she hadn't fired me, then I wouldn't have done well. So again, I was very young in this role. So part of it was I was getting a lot of accolades. I was written up in a lot of magazines. And my previous boss was fantastic. She sort of realized that I had a decent amount of potential. And so she gave me a wide berth, but she kept me, like, the bowling alley? Like you put those big, like...
the bumper bowls.
The bumper bowls, right. So she put some wide bumpers, so I had a lot of room to move. But when I hit the bumper, I knew I had to come back in. And then she got moved elsewhere, and they brought someone else in. And I scared her a little bit. And she was nice, but whatever. So, so she brought the bumpers in really close. And so I couldn't really move, and finally I just bumped out of the bumpers into other lanes, and that caused a lot of friction. And so even though when I was written up in a lot of magazines and stuff, she put me on a performance improvement plan. You know what that is? It means you're going to get fired if you get put on those things. It's technically supposed to mean that they really want you to improve your performance. But by the time you get there, it's an HR mumbo jumbo for we're going to fire your ass, so you've got 30 days, and this is legitimized. So I saw that coming, and I thought, you know what? The founders of a small beverage company no one had ever heard of, frankly, called Vitamin Water, had called me. I loved the product. I drank it. I didn't drink sodas. I didn't drink juices. Why am I hanging around in a job that I'm probably going to get canned from? So right before they could do that, I leapt.
And you just sort of mentioned that you like the product. When people are faced with these decisions on whether to join the startup, what sort of filters do you use to evaluate the product and the opportunity? Why was that attractive to you?
Yeah, I get this question a lot for my brands, and people are, because I'm involved luckily in a lot of companies, and so people say, well, how big is your team? It's me and Stevie, and that's it. And then I get a lot of intellectual advice from my girlfriend Sarah, because she was the brand director on Vitamin Water. So it's like that's the gang, and a lot of it is based to me on gut. Never underestimate your gut. Data is always available to everybody. All of you probably have the same textbooks and you read out of the same stuff. What makes it different is going with your gut. And when you go with your gut, that's the edge that not everyone else has. And for me, I only really get involved in products that I use. And I don't believe that I'm the only person trying to be healthier or feel better about myself or trying to lose weight. So all the products I get involved in, I feel that other people must want this. If they don't want a fried chip, pop chips, that gentleman has one over there, is half the fat and tastes great. Why wouldn't I have that? Or if I don't want a lot of sodium, but I want potassium, and I want a product that's natural versus man-made, I'll do a Vita Coco over a Gatorade. I mean, the war of man versus nature, nature's undefeated. So
you get to the point where you have enough information where your gut tells you what to do, and then
Yeah, I mean, I do research, but we go a lot off belief in the products and the gut that this is something that people are looking for, and then we help build it.
And it was just didn't the CEO of sort of Smart Water find you through press?
Yeah, he was.
Didn't have a relationship, right?
No, he was actually on the front cover of Brand Week 2 years earlier, and so then they were looking for like a head of marketing and become a partner in the company, and so he was flicking through the issues like, oh, this guy looks okay, and so he must have called a few others. They said no, so I'm like, all right, I'm available. Let's do this.
That happens a lot too. So tell us what you joined. What was the sort of size and breadth of the company when you joined? Product.
I think when I joined, we were doing well in New York, like the hipsters, the Lower East Side, the Upper East, sort of the high-end moms liked the product. But across the country, there was no buzz around the brand. We're probably doing about trailing 12, like, I don't know, 25, 30 odd million when I joined. And so it was a decent company, but nothing, didn't have the sizzle just yet outside of areas of New York. And so, with a really great team that we put together, we decided to make this a national brand and make it part of people's lifestyles. And so that's what we did the whole buzz and, took the brand and made it hot in New York and LA and San Francisco and Chicago and lit mini fires across the country that ultimately connected into an inferno.
And it takes money to do that, doesn't it? Or were most of these, to sign these big celebrities, or are you giving them sort of back-end participation, to sign the names of the people that you've done and to grow that way? Did you have a private equity firm behind you? Did you have just a bunch of money in the bank ready to go? Did you guys have to go out and raise it and sell this vision?
So combination. The CEO, probably one of the best guys I've worked with in terms of painting. He's a Van Gogh when he paints a vision. He's the one who got Coke to pay $4 billion. I did the intro, and he's the one who said the number starts with a 4. That was his line. I would have said 400. No, he said no, 4 billion. I said, okay, sounds good. So in order to do that, he had to paint the vision. So he was very good at going to paint the vision. So we had sufficient funding. But it's less about the funding. It's more about the creativity. Because we didn't have enough money to do what we did. What we did was I hired people, and now I'm going into half my presentation, we should probably forget about it, but we hired people who believed in the brand and were brand messiahs. And so the brand messiahs really turned the brand on. So instead of using $100,000 to turn on Philadelphia, the guy we called Slim Slacks because he had very tight pants. I used to wear girls' jeans. He's that skinny. Slim Slacks, you would do it like with 30 grand or 20 grand. So you'd use it for a quarter of what would happen because he was part of that community. He was part of what was happening in Philly. So he helped make the brand hot there with a lot smaller budget. And then things like 50 Cent became where we pioneered the equity deal. Every celebrity now wants skin in the game. Back in the day, it used to be cash. How much cash? Mm-hmm. Now it's, I don't care about cash. What's the skin?
Oh, that's great. We can cut you loose now and let you go through your presentation now, and then you're going to work in your current platform into that as well.
We'll figure it out.
All right, let's go. Well, tell us how to build the brand. All right, make it happen. I'm going to take
All right,
notes.
how's everyone doing? That's pathetic. Are we in Westwood? I'm just checking.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just try it again. This is the home of the trophy, right? Okay. So, all right, how's everyone doing?
Yeah.
All right, that's better. Started with very inspirational speech, my friend here, which he's got me to donate for, so I'm in. So talking about how to build brands and how to generate some creativity, and happy to be here to share some thoughts with you guys. I've been lucky enough to be part of some pretty incredible brands. Each one has a different story and a different way of how it became part of pop culture. I don't have a clicker, so I would just say click every time I got to go, right? Click. So very high tech. So, what's happening today? We talked earlier about how I pick brands. Well, everyone's trying to be a little healthier, and it's starting earlier and earlier. Back in the day, I used to, I don't know, maybe you guys do it still, but when I'd come back from clubbing or I'd go to a party, I'd come back and finish off like a huge chicken fried rice and maybe like a pizza. And I think that maybe you guys still do that, but I think that there's a little bit more, certainly with women, there's definitely a high degree of consciousness about what you eat, what you put in your body. Back then, there wasn't. And so, if we click again, everybody's looking to get more from what they eat and drink. And my feeling is, look, I would like to get in some tech deals, and I've gotten some cool tech deals. I also missed some because I'm a little stupid, but Uber just being one of them. But basically, I don't understand a lot of the tech stuff. I do understand stuff you eat and drink. Because I feel that a lot of the things on the grocery store shelves today aren't really that great for you. They were developed 30, 40 years ago, a lot of the big brands. They were done to be made cheap. They have a ton of corn in them. The fact that the Mexican Coke has sugar, but the American Coke has high fructose corn syrup is kind of crazy. The fact we make high fructose corn syrup cheaper than sugar means that there's an opportunity for entrepreneurs in America to fill the grocery shelves with new stuff, whether it's beverages, whether it's snacks, candy, you name it. Which is why my personal belief is this is the greatest country in the world for entrepreneurs. And it's not just tech entrepreneurs. I feel that across the board, this is the greatest country to create new brands. And we set trends generally that flow from west to east. And a lot of guys come in, they look at what's happening, what's hot here, whether it's on the tech front or fitness front or food stuff, and it all starts flowing across the world this way. So for you guys who want to get into this world, you got to just tap into the insights. So what are the insights? People are looking for healthier products today. We talked about it earlier. Why do pop chips explode? Because fundamentally the product's good. The baked Lays taste horrible. It's like eating cardboard. Pop chips is the same thing, half the fat, except it tastes good. It's like eating a potato chip. Half the fat, when you have it, you don't have to wipe your pants, get the grease on it, and so on and so forth. So that's why pop chips took off. People want products to do more for them. Gatorade's a great product, but honestly, when you walk from here to parking structure A and it's 80 degrees outside, you don't really need to drink a Gatorade. Like no one's really expended so much energy that they need to deplete themselves. And one before, sorry, it clicked. And Vita Coco gives you way more electrolytes than a Gatorade. It gives you more potassium, which most people here are probably potassium deficient, not sodium deficient. You have one bag of chips and you're done for your sodium. You're good to go. But for potassium, you're not. And as I mentioned earlier, in the war of man versus nature, nature's undefeated. So coconut water took off. Yogurt. Yogurt's not exactly that blistering a category. But suddenly Chobani and Fage came along, and they gave you more. They switched the formula. Instead of 8 grams of protein and 20 grams of sugar, they're giving you 20 grams of protein, 8 grams of sugar. And now you're throwing it at everything. Burrito, let's go, put this on. Taco, let's put this on. Hamburger, let's put this shit on, because it's got protein. And so it suddenly exploded. The guy's company's worth $4 billion or $5 billion, I heard now. So you want to become more than just a brand. It starts with having an original idea. Now, it's good news, bad news. Good news is I've been a part of some great products. The bad news, I've never had an original idea. What I do is I go find an incredible product with a visionary CEO, a founder who has had that original idea. But if you, in this room, are definitely some smart people who will have their original idea. And I then help build a brand. And what do? You have to have the right ingredients. And I have my own 3 Ps. You guys may have yours. Everyone has their own 3 Ps or whatever you want to go with. But mine is, it starts with the product. Number 1, you cannot push a bad product uphill. Friendster tried that, didn't work. Instead, Facebook came out. You have a great product, whether it's a vitamin water, whether it's a pop chips, whether it's a Chobani, it moves well. Then you have to have great people. And everyone says that, but it's not just about smart people, it's about great people. So this one of the guys I used to work with, smart guy, put this thing on his board, which is pretty clever. It's called IQ versus EQ. So IQ is definitely important, but EQ can be energy or emotional quotient. And when you start a new company, you need people, product, and you need passion. And sometimes I've taken higher EQ and lower IQ because that's what the company needed. Because the smart guy in the cube running the analysis wasn't going to get the distributors fired up. And there's some guys that I put in who could fire up people if you wind them up and send them in the right direction. And companies get built, you need to have IQ and EQ. And that passion has to be there, especially in entrepreneurial companies. In big companies, maybe, maybe not. They tick away whether you're passionate or not. People clock in for the job. But in entrepreneurial companies, you got to have that passion. And then defy the experts. Whenever you start something new, there's going to be industry experts who will say, this is nice, it's interesting, it won't work. And my favorite phrase, it's a nice niche product. Because guess what? Everything is bloody niche until it's not. And so that's what happens. So I feel that in this room, you guys should really make the news, not write the news. So a lot of the talking heads in industries across the world write the news. Vitamin water was a nice niche product. $4 billion later, maybe it wasn't. Right? Greek yogurt was a niche product. Things are always niche, and then they explode. And so you've got to defy the experts, believe in yourself, and become a student of pop culture. I'm involved in a number of products, whether it's Vitamin Water, Smart Water, Pop Chips, Vita Coco, the new one that I'm going to shill for here called Buy. That's 5 calories, naturally sweetened, and tastes great, whether it's the Kensington ketchup. But all the products I get involved in, I become a student of pop culture for those brands. How does that brand work? Who's the audience? Why do they want to eat it, drink it? Where do I send it? Because not every formula is the same. So if you want a brand to be part of pop culture, I don't care how successful or talented you are, open up Pop Culture 101 for that brand. And finally, be different. It's okay to be different. If you don't want to be a Me Too, be different. Don't be an ass about it, but be different. And I think that's a challenge that people who are successful entrepreneurs are. You don't have to be the nicest guy in the room, but you do have to be different. So how do you go from becoming a brand to creating a phenomenon? Well, the best way to do that is create a category. If you look at the biggest brands out there, whether it's in tech, whether it's in CPG, when you create a category, when you create something brand new and breakthrough, that's when you have a monster. Vitamin Water created the enhanced water category, broke through. The Greek yogurt category, yogurt was huge, but Greek within that exploded, created it. You look at the tech space, whether it's in Uber, created a brand new category. Now there's a bunch of other companies going to follow them, the copycats everywhere. But those guys who come and create a category, Gatorade did it years ago and is still holding strong to it. So Red Bull did it in energy. You create the category, everyone else will come in behind you, but that's when you become a phenomenon, and you need to make that part of pop culture. Whether it doesn't have to be with celebrities, but celebrities do a good job of introducing products to people. When you guys flick through the magazines, you don't go, I'm going to drink that because Madonna's drinking it, but you're like, interesting, what's Madonna drinking? Move on. That registers in your head. Next time you go to the shelf, you're like, you know what? I did see that, let me try it. And then back to my whole original point, if the product's good, you're going to buy it. So then you come in for the repeat. And then finally, when you actually do really well with a great category and you make it part of pop culture, you reap the rewards. In tech, you reap them at 22. Maybe in other industries, you reap them at like 42. But otherwise, you reap them. So you have to have some brand mantras. One of the ones I talked about earlier. I believe in living the brand. So be a brand messiah versus a brand manager. Stevie hates it when I tell the story, but basically, I was in Powerade, I was interviewing a guy, he was coming in for a job, and I said, oh, great, I'm a big believer in brand messiahs. Do you drink the product? Do you eat it? So what do you work on now? I don't know, 28-year-old guy. He goes, I work on Tampax. I said, what? I said, how the hell does he know how it works? Where does he put it? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, it was just like, that was not a brand messiah. I'm sure he did okay on the brand, but you kind of need to, there's a very big company thinking, like put a dude on Tampax. That makes sense. So I think that for me, I always interview people and I make sure they're a part of it. They use the product, they drink the product, they eat the product, they understand it. Because if you don't use it, it's all theory. And then the insights and the sizzle doesn't come through. Influence the influences. One in 10 Americans influence the other 9. In this room, I don't know who you are, but I'll probably find you at some point. But in this room, you have 1 in 10 Americans. This guy here is probably that 1 in 10, right? He sent the email comes out, he gets his ass up here, convinces all of you and me to give him money, and so now, and he's going to go build a school in Zambia. That's like an influencer. He's convinced a lot of people in this room, definitely at least 9 of you, along with himself, to donate some money. So when you try and build brands, it's too expensive to get to 100 people. You can only get to 10. Find that 1 in 9 that gets to the rest. And then create the right culture. We talked about it. When you build a company, it's not just in tech. You see it in tech. You see it in Google, where they have this, you can wear your underwear to work if you want, and you can cycle backwards into, it's like Google's unique, agreed, and they have $1 billion cafeteria budget. Not everyone has that, but if you start your own company, still make it cool. I don't care whether it's like it's a loft space that has 3 beds in it. Just make it fun. Whatever you start with, have a culture. Go out with your team. Bond as a unit and create a culture that people feel like they really want to come in and charge the hill with you. And then believe. We talked about this, but it's part of my theme. America is one of the greatest countries in the world to be an entrepreneur. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you've got to have that original idea and then believe in yourself. And you've got to keep believing because you will hit walls. I got fired, as we talked about, twice at least. I think I just done too well for them to fire me. But frankly, I realized at that point maybe I wasn't made for corporate America. But if I had taken the first firing and said, "Oh, he's right, I shouldn't be a marketer," I'd be in trouble. So I think that every time you hit a brick wall, if you believe in yourself, go through it. Now, if you hit brick walls, then you may get a headache. Change the career path you're in. But so we talked about, so let me throw some ideas on what we do, because one of the things that I talk about a lot and that we did at Vitamin Water and Pop Chips and other brands is creative disruption. You guys probably study that. You guys have seen it. You guys are maybe part of it. Adam's actually a friend of mine, and what he's done with Pensive Promise is creative disruption. His brother does it a lot with the guy he manages, who's just a creative disruption himself, but is also someone who gets the news out there. Brands that create disruption break through. So when I signed a black rapper who had been shot 9 times to a medicinal looking beverage, that was creative disruption. And the reason I chose someone who was a nice natural fit, it wouldn't have worked. Vitamin Water looked like a medicinal product, right? It didn't have that cachet. It's got vitamins in it, so it's like, oh, it's got the functional cachet. It didn't have the sort of, I want to make this part of my daily routine. So I had a discussion with 50. 50 is a guy who believed in himself. And at the time, it was between 2 guys, 50 and Jay. And honestly, I knew 50. That's how it worked out. No one would give me Jay-Z's number. So I met with Fifth, and basically, I had no money, or not enough that he needed. I mean, he would make, back then, he'd fly to Dubai, perform for a night, and make $1 million. That's not, I don't have that budget. But what he got very early, because he's a smart businessman, he said, you know what? Here's the minimum amount of cash I need, but really give me skin. And we made it a skin deal. And I said, fine. You believe in yourself. We believe in our brand. If we achieve these numbers, you get what you want to get. Now, he made a lot of money. Everyone wants to know how much he made. Unfortunately, I can't tell you. We have a deal. I don't say how much he made. He doesn't shoot me. I think it's a fair deal. It's a fair deal, and I would like to stick to it. But it gave 50 a lot of credibility beyond just what he did with the industry, with Eminem, with Dre, with you name it in the music industry. He became this big entrepreneur, and this brand got associated with him, will always be associated with him. And that's when everyone else started jumping in. Every major celebrity out there in music or in sports wants to be part of a brand and wants equity in the brand. And so what we did with 50, though, in terms of creating disruption, was different. It wasn't about 50 necessarily like in a rap video and using some of the stereotypical imagery that 50 had put in his own videos. It was, let's change the game up a bit. So can we run the video, maybe dim the lights? Is that possible? I don't know what the tech situation here is, but.
Welcome to a televised performance of the National Symphony. We'll be hearing Beethoven's Ninth, and the conductor, Shimizu Matsuka, will be replaced by a relative newcomer, Curtis Jackson, also known as the rapper 50 Cent.
He says he's always loved the work of Beethoven and often thinks of him as a true OG. Kept so busy by his recording career, it hasn't felt up to trying this. But since he began drinking Vitamin Water Formula 50, he feels he's up to the task.
One more change, this one for the first viola chair, DJ Who Kid. Sounds like he's integrated his hit into club. Extraordinary. And now he's calling out the trombonist for a solo, which is great because they'd been rumored to have beef before the show.
Vitamin water, try it.
So it's different, right? That's the creative disruption you guys want there. That's interesting. Him in a rap video drinking vitamin water had gone nowhere. And we actually we got an orchestra in a room. They started with Beethoven's Ninth, and then they went into the club. And so it was all well done. And 50 loved it. When we shot the print campaign with him, he was very different. He was like this little dog in his arm, getting his milk from the front doorstep. Like it was not the 50 you knew, but that's what helped it break through. Another creative disruption story. A guy called Brian Urlacher. If you guys have heard of him, he was huge at the time, both physically and on the field. One of the greatest middle linebackers of all time. And Brian was the Chicago Bears, and the Bears went to the Super Bowl. So we thought, okay, how do we try and create some noise? Because Gatorade. I'm like on a Gatorade. They have like a dartboard. And I know this because one of my friends worked there. They got my picture and they throw darts in my picture. And so Gatorade was like, the NFL sponsor. They knew we were coming, and they put up all these, sort of roadblocks effectively to prevent us going there. So we said to Brian, look, why don't you wear the vitamin water hat? And one of my, the guy who was head of sales at the time of the company had a very smart idea. He said, look, you know what? Just have Brian wear the hat and pay him some money. So I said, fine. So we went to Brian and said, we're going to give it to your charity because you have enough money. But, what's your number? 54? We'll pay you 54 grand. Give it to your charity. So he goes, okay, fine. So he went there, he put his hat on. I think the hat must have gone on for like 30 seconds before like the Gatorade police came running. Told the NFL guy goes to Brian's guy goes to Brian, hat's off. So basically, let's assume we were out for 54, because my math is not good, 54 seconds. And it cost us $1,000 a second to have that hat on. Probably wasn't the best use of money, because this is also back in the day when the NFL Network wasn't as big and no one was watching press day. There were like 6 people who actually watched this. Now you're getting much better coverage. So we're like, okay, we let it go. That's the end of that. You got to try stuff. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. 2 months later, Brian gets a note. He doesn't always check his locker, frankly. But he said he must have missed it for 2 months. Goes in there. He's got a fine from the NFL for $100,000 for wearing a hat. I mean, this guy's up for double homicide in the NFL that don't have that sort of fine. And this guy here has got a hat up there and $100,000. So he calls us. What do? We said, no, it's up to you, buddy. Once he finished coming through the phone and almost killing us, we said, joking, we're going to cover this, no problem, but we need you to play ball with us. We got the picture. We gave that story to AP. I mean, this guy's a great guy if you meet him. I mean, he wore a hat, big deal. Like, give him a $5,000 fine, call it a day. We gave the story to AP, and the amount of press we got because of the fine was insane. Could we run that little video?
Bears linebacker Brian Urlacher fined $100,000 for the NFL for drinking vitamin water and wearing a vitamin water hat during a Super Bowl media session.
Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Tony, Roger Goodell fined Brian Urlacher for wearing a vitamin water cap, but he can't find me.
We got about $10 million worth of media. Every sports network picked this up, and that's creative disruption. We took the risk. When we got round 2, instead of sitting back and saying, oh, let's just pay the fine, we paid the fine, we leaned into it, we ran it everywhere, and then we actually donated another $100,000 to the United Way, which is the NFL's charity foundation. So the NFL couldn't say anything. Like, we shut all the doors around Gatorade, basically, and it was a big win. Sometimes we just a little more controversial. Wow, this should hit home. So we had a product on vitamin water called Essential. I actually designed it because I used to drink orange juice. I didn't want to drink any orange juice. A lot of sugar in orange juice. And I wanted all the sort of nutrients, the vitamin C and all the good stuff, but half the calories. So we created a product called Essential Vitamin Water. But how do you create buzz? So we basically just started a billboard and we said, you know what? OJ found guilty of being too high in sugar, that is. And that went up on Sunset Boulevard. And we had helicopters flying around this thing. We got coverage in like 30 markets across America for the Essential flavor. Obviously, we're playing into pop culture. It's definitely tongue-in-cheek. Creative disruption. It made a difference. And this is, I mean, how the hell else do you talk about, an orange flavor of vitamin water? Yeah, and the last one here, which I'll show you, is interesting. Humor is a big part of the brand. I think in this country, everywhere in the world, but in this country a lot, humor is a big part of building brands. And so when you get a big guy like Shaq, like, you got to try and find something that, Shaq is a very creative guy. He'd call me at all sorts of times. Bro, I'm in Miami. I'm running through the streets. Like some of the ad Shaq's in, you see why they're like that. Some of these ideas come out of his head. He literally wanted to scale buildings and stuff. He's out of his mind. Very creative guy. So we one of the founders of the company was actually into horse racing. He's one of the biggest horse racers in the country. So he said, how about we put Shaq on a horse? And I'm like, oh, good Lord, really? And Shaq's like, yeah, I'm there, let's get on the horse. And like 3 of us there suddenly in the Mandarin Oriental Hotel come up with the Shaq getting on a horse. So we're like, all right, fine. So, and then we thought, this is crazy. No point running at an average place. Let's run it at the Super Bowl. So this is the ad we ran at the Super Bowl with Shaq.
It's One Trick Pony and Copernicus battling a length ahead with Mike from Queens on the outside of Prime Chili and Benny the Waiter. Toothless Tiger and Old Man Gator at the back of the pack.
And there's the long shot. New jockey Shaquille O'Neal on Chunk of Love. Extraordinarily large for a jockey. He apparently tried Vitamin Water Power C with vitamin C and taurine and decided to saddle up for this. He said he wanted a crown to go with all those rings. And Chunk of Love, half Clydesdale on a mother's side, not normally known for speed, is coming on like an angry Viking. Now alongside Julio Cuaron, and Shaq's boxing out Cuaron, asserting his dominance in the low post. We're down the stretch with less than a furlong. Unbelievable! Benny the Waiter and Prime Chili coming together to keep Shaq back, but Shaq won't be denied. The crowd is on its feet. Prime Chili, Chunk of Love, Benny the Waiter, too close to call at the wire. Sweet mother of molasses, it's a photo. It's Shaq by a nose, and he's done it. O'Neal and Chunk of Love have taken the crown. One for the record books. O'Neal and a valiant filly named Chunk of Love have made history. Vitamin Water, try it.
So again, if you want to do it, pick a big forum, make it creative. It was one of the top 5 ads at USA Today that year. So everything that I found that we've done on brands help create disruption for your brand. It'll make you seem much larger than you are. It just gets people to try it, and it goes back to what I said at the beginning. If you've got a great product, people try it and they buy it. The other thing we do a lot is when we have certain celebrities, it's about fostering relationships. One of the things that I push my teams on, and if you guys do this, your Rolodex is critical. Everybody you guys meet, people who end up signing, maintain those relationships. Teams that I have, Pop Chips, fantastic team. They time with the celebs and they build a relationship with them. And when that happens, you get value-added stuff that you didn't pay for. Here's an example. Bruno Mars has gone on to be a massive star. Pop Chips had a relationship with him early. He was very big at the time. And the team did such a great job that Bruno, just freestyling, puts this out on the internet of his own accord, not because he had a passionate relationship with both the brand and the team.
Oh, yeah. I just want to take this time and just let you know how I feel, because I don't think you know. Check it. I remember when I first laid eyes on you, it was like love at first sight. And then I knew I had to get close to you, near you, with all of my might. All your might? But when I get you in my grasp, ooh, there's only one thing that I ask. Don't you ever go away. Don't you ever stop doing what you're doing, because I love that ass. You know I do now. Sour cream and onion. I love the way you taste. Yes, I do. Sour cream and onion. I want you all over my face. Sour cream and onion. I'm talking about sour cream. I love the way you taste. Sour cream and onion. I want you all over my face. Talk to her.
I remember the first time I opened you up.
Yeah.
You was being so sweet that day.
Always.
You kind of had a little attitude though. I like to call it a little kick.
Right.
But I'm kind of into that. And I just want you to know that no matter what, you will always be my sour cream and onion. Oh, I love the way you taste.
sour cream and onion. What do we want? I want you all over my face. Woo woo. Sour cream, sour cream, sour cream and onion. Oh, an onion, onion. We love the way you that's for you. Tasty.
So again, that's the power of relationships. As you guys go through stuff, whenever you connect and you build brands, maintain that relationship. We get more out of that than when you get out of just paying someone going against the contract. The other brand that broke through, and Smart Water. I mean, Smart Water might be a more incredible story than Vitamin Water. It's a plain water. It tastes phenomenal. It's crisp. It's vapor distilled, but it is the fastest growing water in the country at the moment. It's bigger than Fiji. It's twice the size of Evian. Evian tastes horrible, so that's not surprising. But Smart Water is on fire, and the brand started doing well. But this is one where we created disruption. We didn't need the 50-cent Vitamin Water. This is where you wanted it to flow better. Smart Water's look and feel, you wanted to go with the most pristine sort of female partner, someone who's never had an endorsement deal, someone who really loved the product. That's a big thing that if you sign celebrities or you sign individuals to a brand, you want them to believe in the brand. It's back to the belief piece. It's not just yourselves, it's people you bring in. Jennifer was a perfect fit. When she came on board, the brand took off. And frankly, this might be the longest relationship she's had. I think it's going on 12 years now. It's 12, 10 years, maybe 10 years, yeah. And incredible brand ambassador. She takes it everywhere. She uses it against a shield, against the paparazzi. Like, it got insane coverage, and it was just a natural fit. And when Jennifer came on board, it made a difference with the distributors. It made a difference with retailers, probably because most of them are horny guys. But fundamentally, it still worked, and the brand took off, and the fit is still there today. So, from my perspective, I've been lucky to be part of some incredible brands. But the success criteria always starts, in my opinion, with a great product and great people. And creative disruption, whether it's in tech, what you're seeing today, where Airbnb is worth more than Hyatt now, or whether it's in CPG, where a Vitamin Water and a Chobani or a Pop Chips or a Vita Coco is exploding. Creative disruption in tech and in beverages and in a lot of fields is creating the new normal. Even in television today, Modern Family is now creating the new normal of what the family in America looks like. It's sort of dead right. It's not the typical family that was there 20 years ago. It is the new normal. Trust your gut. That's the difference. Everyone's going to have the same documentation. Doesn't mean don't do research. Do some research. Understand what's going on. Be smart about it. But trust your gut, because that's the edge that you guys have versus the person potentially next to you. My favorite phrase, everything is niche until it's not. Don't listen to the naysayers. Take something that you believe is niche, fight for it, make it big, and then at that point, I believe that it'll no longer be niche. And for that very reason, because of the scale of this country, the amount of people we have here, the development we have here, the innovation that's happening here, and the disruption that's happening in America today that's being followed across the globe, this is the greatest country to be an entrepreneur in. So with that, get out there and go build a brand. Thank you.
All right. Who's got questions? Who's got questions? On this side before I have to sprint over there. I'm mad at this side then. Get your stuff together. All right. Announce your name.
My name is Stacy, and you talked about trusting your gut. And one of the things that the question that I have for you, how do you begin to trust your gut? You know, that's a big key for a lot of people. They don't trust themselves. I know you say you believe in yourself, but how did you realize that your gut was the right thing?
You know what, I think someone brought it up earlier today. I'll be honest, there's a danger in the tech world where you see someone come out at 22, sell a company for $6 billion, like, all right, I'm there next. and you don't see the other 3,000 people that have not done that and have gone belly up. So there is the strategy of going out there and becoming a massive hit overnight. It's like music, right? For every major superstar, there's like 100 guys trying to sing in a band somewhere in a bar trying to make it. I do believe that there is some sort of, it may not be the 20 years, 30 years has been in the past, but there's some sort of training ground that you've got to do some sort of heavy lifting, some little bit of grunt work in the early days. And I believe that's where you test your gut, where it doesn't cost you that much. You haven't raised $500,000 or $1 million to start your own company. You've worked somewhere. I failed a couple of times. And so when you fail on Coke's dime, it's okay. You know, I learned, no big deal. It was like $200 million failure, but not a big deal. And so I think that if you do it in places in the early days, and you realize what you're good at and what maybe is a bad call, because I've had bad, you know, I created a brand called Vitamin Energy that was just a dog and didn't go anywhere. But Vitamin Water Spa Water did great. So I think you've got to test your gut in, like racing, on smaller tracks before you go to the, you know, Formula One or NASCAR.
Hi, my name is Jay. I had a quick question regarding broadcast advertising versus field marketing. I noticed that I see Vitamin Water all over out there right now doing a lot of just field marketing. Then I noticed a lot of the success you've been talking about has been through a lot of TV advertising. Do you see there should be a right balance between the two? Do you think that broadcast advertising is just more effective and field marketing supports that, or what's your take on that?
So I always start with field marketing. And so the creative disruption on field marketing is difficult to present because it's micro disruption, right? It's coming onto the USC campus and it's disrupting people here like we did 10 years ago. And it became the hottest product on campus 10 years ago. We had the right parties, we had the right events. Field marketing is a much more effective way in the early days of getting your brand out there because you don't have $20 million to go launch a media campaign. So I've always done field marketing first because I feel that regardless of whatever the consumer product is, the most powerful thing you can do is buy a brand. So, you know, if you offer a person a product or a snack or whatever it is and they try, they go, oh, I love it, much more likely to go buy it than if you see it in an ad. When you want to start going from reaching 1 million people to 100 million people, you kind of need to go to broadcast. So it's like a staged approach. And then I think at one point you got to find that hybrid because I never want to lose field marketing. You always want to have that ground connection, but you then have to reduce it a little bit and bring in more of the broadcast and whether it's on TV or online, you just got to find that balance.
I'll get over there. Conserving my energy.
What are some of the powerful characteristics of company cultures you've been in?
Sorry, say that one more time.
What are some of the powerful characteristics of company cultures that you've been in?
Passion is a big one. I think that, especially in Vitamin Water, people were very passionate about what they did. They really liked their job. People would stay very late. You know, they would do it because they liked what they did. Fun, which is a very overrated term, but one thing that we did is whenever there's company events and whenever we sponsor things, we tried to let a number of people get to go to these things and go to things they ordinarily have access to. So if you create a fun environment and create a unique event, and people both lower down and higher up the food chain, I think you create a fun culture. And then the third one I think is ideas can come anywhere. So, you know, I've taken ideas from, I think I once took an idea from the guy who handed the mail out. And I think that it doesn't really matter where it comes from. It doesn't have to be top of the company. It can come from anywhere. And when people feel like an idea of theirs can get spread through the company because you allow that to happen, it creates a very powerful culture.
Any more on this side before
Thanks so much for coming. You talked a lot about building brands and kind of having these crazy ideas and trying all this stuff. I'm curious how you build your own personal brand and how you build credibility so that when you have these crazy ideas, people will take you seriously.
A little bit through that 1 in 9 thing I told you about. I think a lot of it's word of mouth. I've not some friends of mine have argued to me, and that might change, that I need to probably get out there and do more of it, because there's a lot of cool companies that I'm sort of the connective tissue through, and I've sort of had an impact on a fair few brands. I've really focused on building the brands versus me, but I think what's happened as a result of that is people in the industry, Adam being an example of that, have now sort of heard what brands I've been part of, and so it's like, it's 4 degrees of separation or 3 degrees. It's Kevin Bacon now-esque, where I've made enough movies that I can a lot of people, and I think that a lot of entrepreneurs. Doesn't mean I get everything. I still miss opportunities, because when you get a lot of things coming at you, trying to pick through which one's a winner, which is not, is difficult. It's easy 5 years later, oh yeah, I should have picked that brand, but at the time it comes to you and it's tiny, it's difficult. But I think the word of mouth is the biggest thing, and now I'm probably going to go out there and start to do more.
So a question regarding how you're, right here.
Oh, sorry. No, he started here and then he switched, so you got.
So kind of you're going with your gut a lot, but how much of this are you testing your ideas before you like implement it on a mass scale? So you have like an idea of how you want to do like run a campaign. Are you testing it with a small community and then going big with it, or are you just going like straight away?
So like, yes. So I send it to a bunch of friends, and then family, and get their point of view. And I don't do really, in some companies we've started to do a little more testing, but a lot of the times with the campaigns, we run it internally within the company. Because we feel that people working at Vitamin is a classic example. People working within the company really understood the brand. And so they will call you out on what's not working and what is working. So once you start building the culture we talked about, people who get the company and understand the brand and feel it, you can run stuff internally, and usually you get, I mean, yes, it's a little bit of drinking the Kool-Aid, but you can get some pretty good feedback. But when it comes to choosing companies to invest in, I literally send it to like 30 friends and see what they think. Like this beef jerky that I invested in, because everyone wants a protein snack. Protein is hot. It's difficult to find when you're traveling, airports here and there, trying to find it. And the beef jerky that's on the market is usually the leftover meat that tastes nasty. We start with like real steak. It's like a shameless plug, but we start with real steak, and it tastes fantastic. I sent it to a bunch of friends. They all loved it. I'm like, this sounds like a good idea. Let's invest. Getting out? It's just me.
No, you're a good-looking guy. You don't need to hold that up.
All right.
All right, when you're ready, I'm ready for you too.
All right, sorry, buddy. I'm
No
having tech
worries.
issues here.
I want to actually ask you, how do you know where to start? Like, let's say put vitamin water in a Whole Foods compared to a Ralph's, or New York City or Los Angeles. How do you go about that?
1 in 10. So it varies by each brand, but you generally want to start with where you're going to get the influencers, the 1 in 10 who influence the other 9. So Whole Foods is probably a better place to start than Ralph's, just because the audience going in there, their understanding of what's better for you, especially in my field, because every product I'm involved in is a better for you product. I'm just investing in a juice company. Pressed juice is hot. The one I'm getting involved in is a full nutrition line. So it's not just pressed, it's blended, got protein milks. And we did a demo and ran a deal at one Whole Foods this weekend in Columbus Circle in New York, and sold 300 bottles. 300 bottles at $8 a bottle is a lot of money. So out of one store, $2,400. So one store doing that to me, those are signs. You got to look for signs like that you're on the right track. Whole Foods is an important piece. So it varies. Not every product works. You know, for beef jerky, the market is not Whole Foods because they sell this like the nasty salmon jerky, and no one really buys it there. But convenience stores are a huge way to go. So you want to hit the convenience stores or the Bristol Farms of the world, where people treat it like a grocery/convenience type in and out place. So it varies in the brand, but again, it goes to the cities and the locations where you want to find the influencers who spread the word.
My name is Jake, and my question for you: you said you do a lot of work with celebrities, and I was wondering how you felt about Kobe creating his new company and what the impact that'll have on celebrities and athletes across the country and globe.
I'm meeting him on Friday, so I'll tell you. So Kobe actually partnered with another friend of mine. It's a cool brand called Body Armor, and so Kobe invested in that. And Kobe's very smart. he said very obviously that, his basketball career is coming to an end, and he wants to be an entrepreneur, and he loves building and creating things. So what he's doing, because he's very smart, is structuring what a lot of other guys do more loosely. So there's a lot of other celebrities that have invested in companies, that have taken stakes in companies. He's more formalizing it and building a team around him to go pick some of the best stuff out there. So I think that people have been doing what Kobe's doing. I mean, 50 changed the game, right? When he did that, everybody said, I want skin in the game. That's when people won. And then Dre did it with Beats, and suddenly, Dre's made more money on Beats than he ever made in his music career. And so he was brilliant. He got involved in something that really worked. So skin in the game and being part of building brands is now part of pop culture in this country. And Kobe's just very smart at the way he's structuring, the way he's going to go about doing it. He's a very cerebral guy.
Hi, my name is Andrew. You talked a lot about influence and being an influencer. And have you ever thought of using your influence for a noteworthy cause like building schools or other causes?
Yeah. So what I do at the moment, so this is where my girlfriend pushes me, I generally give money to friends of mine who do a lot of stuff. So I will go to an event like this and say, you know what, here's $5,000 or $10,000 for this cause that you want. And I'll do that with everybody that I know when they invite me to events, because I feel they've already got an infrastructure. I think the phase 2 for me is to create my own infrastructure on something, and I've got to hone in on what are the areas. I've got 2 or 3 areas that I'm passionate about. So the next stage is to do my own foundation and have others put in money into it. But at the moment, I'm giving into people that I know around their causes.
Hi, my name is Fedi Akub. So earlier on, you were saying about how you seek out great original ideas and whatnot, then grow them out to this amazing monster or whatever it is. So, but then that seems kind of similar to what a VC or an accelerator would do at a smaller scale. However, in your case, it's basically, as you say, you and Stevie. So I was gonna say then, what is kind of your infrastructure, or what kind of advantage does that give you, and why don't you start kind of your own kind of team or mini VC / accelerator kind of thing to go about that? And second thing, if you could comment on what happened with the Vitamin Energy.
A lot of questions. Okay, let me try and remember it. I shouldn't have drunk before this. So the first part, what I do is I'm a VC. So the way I do it, and I may go in, at the moment I'm just using my own money to do it, because I feel that's less stress, and I don't have to, if I lose my money, it's okay. I don't lose other people's money. So what we do is we're VCs, and that's spotting right brands, building it, incubating it, growing it. I'm sure at some stage I may take that, create a larger fund, and do that on a larger scale. The difference of what I do is I have a great network. So Vitamin Water was a very big family. And what happened after Vitamin Water is that family spread out into a bunch of other amazing companies, whether it's Pop Chips or Vita Coco or Pirates Booty or Kind, or there's a lot of other, and they've gone to a lot of cool companies. That network and that family is who I tap into. So once I've decided I want a product and I want to get behind it, I go find the right quarterback, running back, wide receiver from that original family and put them into the right companies, because I know how they know how to build it. I know they have the passion, or they know someone. So it's very much it's an extended network that I can tap into for them to go build the company. And I help provide the ideas and the strategy and some of the thinking. But, and a lot of times also there's an entrepreneur who started it. So the founder has got the vision. So you back a great founder. So the founder of Vita Coco's got a great energy and creativity. He's created a phenomenal culture in the company. And so I helped a lot with pushing him to do Madonna and a lot of the sizzle marketing. But in terms of taking the company to the next level, that's his vision has taken that. So mine is just supporting that vision. And then Vitamin Energy, I was trying to be a me too, right? So what happened was I'm like, oh, well, we have Vitamin Water, we have Smart Water, energy's taking off. Let me create an energy drink. And there was nothing different. The problem was, if I wanted to do it, I had the same calories. I didn't have the credibility of energy that Red Bull or Monster had. And there was nothing different. If I'd come out with a smaller Vitamin Energy and called it 5-hour Vitamin Energy, it would have worked out great. If I'd come out with a low-calorie or zero-calorie Vitamin Energy, it would have worked out great. The issue was I went down the rabbit hole and created a product that literally had no differentiation other than the package. And at some point, when you have a poor product, consumers are going to call you out on it. That's what happened. In some ways it's easier and we can move quicker. In other ways, Stevie doesn't sleep. So I mean, it's not, it's a little tougher because I think that as I've got to a point that we have a lot of different companies. So I may have to start adding people at some point because I have like 7 brands. I mean, I even forget. I mean, from ketchup to juices to, mayo, chips, 3 beverages. Anyway, so.
Hi, I'm Vishal, and I was wondering how you prevent
my brother-in-law's name.
How you prevent your products and your brand from copycats, specifically in foreign markets.
It's a pain in the ass. Not just foreign markets, these markets as well. I think you've really got to be on the watch out for copycats. I think that sometimes, in some cases, I've probably been a little complacent. But I think generally you've got to watch out, and you've got to build scale quickly. Once you get to scale, and once you're big enough and you box some others out, you've got to have a great team to do that. You're a little safer. But in the early days, what happens is some guys, and it's much quicker these days. When vitamin water came out, they weren't copycats right off the bat. They came later. Now another thing, coconut water or pop chips, they're coming like straight away. Like, you start the company Monday, by Thursday, there's copycats out there. So I think that you've got to really fend them off. You've got to make sure you control your shelf space, get better distribution, outmarket them. You've got to be on the lookout for it. And in foreign markets, you've got to try and trademark your brand. But in terms of actually them coming out with a similar product, it's difficult. But like I said earlier, America's huge. You can make a lot of money. You can be very successful in this country just by serving the US market. So my focus has always been, people ask me, why don't you do Africa or India? I'm like, this is the best place to build a brand. And so I start here, and if someone starts a brand in Azerbaijan, I'm okay with that.
Hi there. My name's Jake. I'm right here, the redhead.
Okay.
Hi. So you stress like intuition and your gut and stuff like that. Have you ever had a time where your intuition is different from something that marketing research shows, or something that other managers are saying, and have you had to push through that, or what happens when your gut conflicts with something else?
So I'm a bit of a bully, and so I kind of need like a 5 against 1 scenario. Meaning, if it's just 1-on-1, I'll usually steamroll. If it's 2 or 3, I still pretty steamroll. But once I start seeing a lot of people, the people that I value their input on, like 3, 4, 5, it causes me to step back and think, because I'm not going to have the right answer all the time. And so when multiple people are saying that, I shouldn't have an orange Range Rover, it's probably the time not to have a burnt orange Range Rover. So I think that as I've gone with time, I've gone with my gut, but I also learned to listen to smart people around you. And I think that if you don't do that, then you'll go down the rabbit hole by yourself. Hello. Yes, I do it beyond just marketing. So this beverage here that I think people are going to hand out at some point, it's called Bai. Bai is one of the fastest growing brands in the country at the moment. Why? You guys probably read it, but diet sodas are in double-digit decline, right? Diet sodas are declining quicker than regular sodas, which is beyond me, but because nobody wants to do artificial sweetness. They're like, this is not good for you, right? Not that sodas are good for you either, frankly, but so both are in that sort of tough piece. Bai comes out, it's 5 calories, it's naturally sweetened. There's a lot of things that are naturally sweetened that are low calorie. What's the problem with them? It tastes like crap. So to find that holy grail of great taste, low calorie, and naturally sweetened is a tough one. Bai has nailed it. And so I've got involved in the company, and when I joined on the company, there was 2. There was Bai and Bai 5. And I was very clear with my business partner. I'm like, we've got to get rid of Bai. Bai was 70 calories. There was no difference. Why would I want to drink a Bai, drink a Snapple, drink a vitamin water? They've got 70, 80 calories a serving. People want 5 calories a serving. That's what they're looking for. So Bai 5 was the sort of the diamond. Let's focus on that. So I got involved in that. Sarah redid the packaging on Bai. It looks fantastic now. And I've pushed in a number of different fronts, whether it's from a retail standpoint, from a team standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, to help get that brand to where it is. And the CEO has a great vision, so he takes a lot of the stuff. We probably agree 80% of the time, and he runs with it. So I'm still very involved, not all the time. I don't need to be there day to day because they're really smart guys who founded the companies, who run the companies. But I come in with some key points and some ideas that help to differentiate it.
Hi, my name is Elena. Is this working? Okay, great. My question is regarding one of the final points that you made in your presentation. You listed on that concluding slide that creative disruption is becoming the new normal. But to me, it would seem that a creative disruption is trying to disrupt the normal. So if we're living in a world where creative disruptions are becoming the new normal, how are companies and brands going to begin differentiating themselves? Like not considering factors like price and quality of the product. How do you differentiate yourself when everyone seems to have a celebrity affiliate or a social media presence? What do you believe is the next step?
There's a lot in that question.
Sorry.
So it's kind of a circular argument. Creative disruption is creating the new normal. The idea, that the example I gave you was actually the television one. Modern Family as a show has redefined what a modern family is. Modern family shows 10, 15, 20 years ago were very different. Today, you've got the older guy who's divorced with the hot Hispanic wife. You've got the gay couple who adopt the kid from Vietnam. You've got the traditional husband-wife, 3 kids scenario, smart kid, dumb kid. Like you've got the scenario there. So it's like, it's definitely disrupted the way people think about it, and that's now spawned copycats, like we talked about, where they're trying to emulate that and create today's comedies in the new normal vein. So as it relates to products, disrupting it, vitamin water did the same thing. When vitamin water came out, there was no such thing as enhanced water. It was like sodas, juices, sports drinks, energy drinks. We disrupted the beverage space by looking at enhanced water. Vita Coco has followed on suit from that. And so when you come out, and if you're the original, and you create disruption that's meaningful to get people to try a product that's great, that's what the future is going to be. You've got to be one of the first to market. You've got to be something that tastes fantastic and gives people more than what they're getting. And creative disruption is a way to get your brand to the forefront. So if you can do that, and it's not disruption for the sake of it. Like some of the things I showed up there were to get attention for the brand. The brand is what's creating disruption because it's unique. It's a category creator. It's bringing out something that's fresh and different. The ideas, the marketing behind it, just create sort of buzz and disruption in people's mindsets so they try the product. People will always go with the product they like. So it doesn't matter how good your disruption is. If the product's not great, it's never going to work. But I think first to market with creative disruption starts to showcase what potentially the new normal could be. And I think grocery shelves in the next 20 years are going to be very different than the grocery shelves today, and Whole Foods is the pioneer. They're showing it. They're showing, you go to Whole Foods grocery shelf, it is very different to what you see on regular grocery shelves out there.
Hi, my name is Tanmay. First, I just wanted to thank you for coming. It was an absolutely phenomenal presentation. Second, my question is, what would you say your biggest regret has been in your career thus far?
Really? You want me to get on that? You know what? I think I've been very lucky professionally, personally. If I'm greedy, I would say that I should have called my buddy who I didn't follow up on a phone call with him for a small company no one heard of called Uber. And then my other friend I had a meeting with, and Stevie came with me, and we didn't call him, there was no follow-up meeting to Airbnb. So, those are probably two $20 billion ideas that I missed. But I think that, as Sarah keeps pointing out, you got to look at the forward part. I'm lucky enough to be in a number of deals. I'm batting maybe 800, 900, which is pretty good. You're never going to bat 1,000. I've had a couple of losses, but most of them are wins. And so you got to look at what you have. I will whine about stuff that I missed, and usually my girlfriend receives the brunt of it. But fundamentally, inside, I really celebrate the wins that I have, because I think that's the source of what you look forward to. If you keep looking back at what you missed, then you keep looking in the rearview mirror and you don't look forward. And I think that I've been part of some really cool things. And if you miss something, guess what? Go create the next one. So if I didn't invest enough in one brand, I'll go invest in the next big thing, because I'm just starting my career in this game, right? As an athlete, I'd be ending it. It's why Kobe's doing what he's doing, by the way, is because his athlete career is ending, but his entrepreneur career is just beginning.
That is great advice to sort of finish on. Let's hear it for Rohan first.